What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of DC and RC. I'm Daniel Cormier. That's my guy, Ryan Clark, over there dancing to that old school funk. Listen, I don't get tired of hearing our intro music because to me, RC, it's got to be the best entrance music in all the television, podcasting, because it just kind of makes you feel good. It feels like it's good for your soul, right?
Hey, man, listen, it's a good vibe. I mean, the thing I'm most excited about, DC, was that they actually let us pick it. They let us hear a couple of different beats, and they said, you know what? This one feels like y'all, and it feels like home every time I hear it, my guy.
You know, it was a combination of two or three different beats that came together to just make absolute magic. And what we plan to do on this show is make magic. So coming up, we're going to talk about Kayla Harrison and the way that she has dominated the PFL tournament and some of the call-outs that she's putting on people. Then we're going to jump into the biggest fight of the weekend. I know it's hard to say that because it involves Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, but the whole world is going to be watching.
It's a big fight.
But more importantly, Ryan Clark, you and I are going to be on the clock because we are going to get into the most marketable, the most must-see watch fighter draft on DC and RC this weekend, and I'm telling you, some of the names that I have stored, I have nothing written down. Nothing.
DC. Now I know you want to talk about, oh, look at me, look at my MMA, UFC knowledge. I don't have to write down the top 5 fighters. But let me tell you what you don't do as well as you remember UFC history. You don't catch the football as well. So last night, I'm just minding my business, chilling in the house, and I see some alerts popping up on my IG. I look at this picture, and it's Daniel Cormier about maybe an inch off of the ground, jumping over somebody. I think his name is like Big Rich, Big Rob, Big Ricky, who obviously doesn't jump at all. And what I can tell from this picture, DC, is you don't actually catch this ball. But then as you have the caption, you say, just like you do to Ryan Clark, listen, big man, you have the championship belt in 2 divisions, but you ain't got no Super Bowl rings. You chose wrestling for a reason. So tell me, my guy, why you coming at me?
So here's the thing, RC. That seems to be the thing to do this week, right? Is come after my dog. So I was like, I might as well get on board too, right? So I'm out here. I'm like, let me go moss this cat. I've seen Randy Moss's segment, Mossed. And now, so it's been debated that I did not catch the ball. And his name is Big Joe. He was a fantastic linebacker.
Okay,
he doesn't jump as high as he may have done back in the day. But as I mossed Big Joe, as I would moss you, Clark, people are starting to say, well, DC, did you catch the ball? Glenn Jacobs did kind of tell you exactly what I was doing. It was a tip drill. So whereas I may not have caught it the first time, roll the extra stills.
Okay, so
right?
what happened?
The ball gets popped up in the air, right? The ball gets popped up in the air, RC. Right. Now go to the next one. Look at the eyes on DC. That's called awareness, field awareness. And then look at him turn and catch it. Now I've got my foot planted because I'm spinning back to the opposite direction off you, Clark. You know, I'm spinning off of you as I catch the ball, DC, as I go into the end zone. Look, man.
DC.
Ryan, you got to get it, dog.
DC.
What?
I've watched you slam Dan Henderson. I've seen you beat Stipe Miocic. I've seen you do some amazing things in the octagon, DC. I'm going to tell you like this. If you tip that ball in the air like that, and then you're looking up with your left eye on it, with your right foot planted, that might be the last time you ever plant a right foot in your life. Hey, bro, if we're going to talk about wrestling,
you hitting me right?
We're going to talk about putting on the gloves, I give it to you at all points. You don't get taken out of there.
It's over, Clark.
You see it. It is out of there. I am running through you, DC. All due respect, my man. When we are on this show and it is about the UFC, you have the right of way. But when we talking about football, if you tip a ball in the air, that's gonna be the last one you tip today.
I'm trying to hit you with that spin move. No, I figured I would hit Ryan with a stop route and then hit him with a double move. I'm hitting him with a double move, right, to get into the end zone than this dude. Then I'm going to the Pro Bowl. Then I'm going to the Pro. It's all I dream about. DC. But Ryan, listen, that would be the first. Wait, no, listen. That would be the first time that I have really mossed a guy that played in a Super Bowl. But there was another first last weekend as the Clark parents were introduced to mixed martial arts. Ryan, tell me how much did your mom love watching the fights last weekend from the Apex?
Love would be a very strong adjective to describe my mother's emotions. Every time someone dropped, every time someone was kicked, anytime someone was on the ground and mounted, my mother turned her head away and I just can't watch it. I just can't watch it. But like most mothers, she was very excited to see my new friend work. And I was like, yeah, Mom, that's DC. That's who I do the show with. And she was like, oh, he's really good. Look at his jacket. Ooh. I was like, Mom, we're not worried about DC's jacket. Like, dude is a fighter. She was all excited to meet my new friends, but she doesn't necessarily love the new job. But my dad was all the way into it. My dad was saying things like, hey, how is this dude going to fight? And how is he going to be in the ring when he can't fight? When all he can do is wrestle? I was like, Pops, it's mixed martial arts, but it was cool. I had to take a picture from my parents' house. It's so crazy. It's actually the house I grew up in. We tried to get them to move. They didn't want to move. You know how people from the West Bank are, bro. But it was exciting to go sit with my parents, have an opportunity to watch you work, bro. Have an opportunity to introduce my mom to what we do now.
You know what the crazy thing was about the fights last weekend is I wore a different suit, one that I haven't worn on TV for the first time. And I get a text from Dana White. He was like, Conor McGregor bullying you made you wear a new suit. He was like, did Conor make you buy a new suit? Dog, it was absolutely ridiculous. In the middle of the show, getting a text from the boss telling me that Conor's bullying has made me buy new clothes. It's absolutely ridiculous. It was something I had before, and then it was time to switch it up a little bit, as they say. But ultimately on Saturday night, RC, the fights was about Jared Cannonier and Kelvin Gastelum, and it absolutely delivered. It was a great fight from start to finish. The whole fight night was fantastic. But as we leave that fight, as we leave the Apex, you look at a Jared Cannonier, a guy who was ranked number 3 in the world, was in a number 1 contenders fight last time, beats another top guy. What do you expect him to do? Because I asked Jared in the middle of the octagon, I'm like, hey, man, the champ has been saying he wants to fight you, right? You know that Whitaker and Adesanya are fighting again. Do you want to try to wait, maybe weigh in as an alternate, or do you want to fight again? Dude sits up there and goes, well, I'm broke, so I need a fight. But at times, you have to value prestige in a division over financial. So when you look at Jared Cannonier in this situation, what do you think that he should do? Do you think that Jared should continue to fight? Maybe fight the winner of next week's fight between Till and Brunson? Or just wait to see if he gets an opportunity and injury happens or something between Adesanya versus Whitaker?
I mean, I think it's all about planning, DC. It's about, can Jared Cannonier get a fight early enough before the 2022 meeting of the champion and Robert Whitaker to maybe be prepared and ready to be a guy that could step into that fight. We've talked about money on this show probably more than I've talked about money on any NFL show, even throughout free agency, whether it's a lack of money, whether it's making decisions because the money is right. And that seems like where Jared Cannonier is. Let's think about this dude, bro. He starts out in heavyweight, right? He moves down to 205, naturally starts working and works his way into this powerful, huge 185-pounder who gets the contender fight and loses to Robert Whitaker. Now, there is no shame in that. But this is a dude saying he doesn't have any money, that he got houses in Alaska, he has fees to pay and all these different things. He seems like he's trying to get back in the octagon right now. So if I'm him, I look at the Brunson and the Till fight, and if those guys win quick, right? If it's a quick KO, if it's a quick submission, I try to press the UFC to give me that fight right away to set myself up to be there for the Izzy and Whitaker winner, or to be able to step in if one of those guys has to pull out.
So for me, it's a little bit different, right, RC? So I love what you're saying. But my opinion varies a little bit, because here's what I think. I think that they fight next week, Brunson and Till, but I don't think that they fight right away. I think they wait. I think they wait and they fight along the same timeline as the champion versus the former champion, Robert Whitaker.
I got you.
Because if you have a championship fight scheduled, and then in the co-main event, if it's not a 2-title fight card, you have Cannonier versus Till/Brunson. Now you have not only 2 big fights in the middleweight division, you keep both of those matchups in line with each other. So at the end of the fight night, you have your next title already done. But not only does that come into play, you also have a reserve. in case one of the guys get hurt. We both know after watching the heavyweight title fight, an interim championship can pop up just about out of anywhere, right? So if the champ Adesanya gets hurt, maybe one of these guys fights Robert Whittaker for an interim title. But if all goes according to plan, now you have the champ, whoever comes out of that fight the winner of Cannonier versus Brunson/Till in the next championship fight. So I think the timeline needs to stay along the same course, so
but
that
DC,
you have all those things that can play into effect with each other.
Right, DC. But so if you're Jared Cannonier, to me, you have to take the winner of Brunson and Till, because from what you're saying, if that timeline lays out, right, if you get the Cannonier Till or Cannonier Brunson fight around the same time you get Whittaker Izzy, for a dude who's saying that he needs money, he can't wait that long. You can't, listen, if was the fifth, we'd all be drunk. And so he can't just be sitting around waiting for someone to not be able to fight, or waiting for an opportunity to get one of those top dudes and pass over a fight that could get him money, pass over a fight that could solidify him as the #1 contender out after the Izzy Whittaker winner is declared. And so to me, this is a no-brainer for Jared Cannonier. You can't wait. You can't wait. Go out once again and show that you belong. And if you believe in your skills, the same way I know guys like you did or any other top contender does, you think you're going to win the fight anyway. Win the fight, make the money, build the championship fight up even more, because now you're 100% solidified, and go get the money that maybe you can raise the stakes of that championship fight.
That's exactly what Robert Whittaker did, right? When he lost the title fight, he went and fought Darren Till, and then he fought Jared Cannonier. Put himself right back into title contention. Cannonier has that opportunity himself, right? Cannonier is fighting against Kelvin Gastelum, and then he can fight against the winner of that fight next week. There's also guys out there, right? Marvin Vettori. There's also Paulo Costa. There are many matchups that he could take in order to further his title contendership, but I think this one works the absolute best. It's an interesting time for the middleweight divisional, because now you got a whole bunch of guys jumbled along the top that could potentially challenge the champion.
DC, I have one question for you. I have a big fighter question for you, though. Is there a fear if you're taking the Till Brunson winner, or you're fighting against Costa Vettori, that you could lose? That losing that fight in the same way and losing to Robert Whittaker puts you out of contention, or at least didn't have you with that next step to fight for the championship? If I'm a Jared Cannonier, should I be worried about that and saying, yeah, even though the money is good and the money is needed, I'd rather wait on that championship bout because it's more eyes, more money, and an opportunity to be even richer than I've ever been if I win?
You know, the thing about Jared Cannonier is that he's not afraid, right? And people are just kind of wired differently. Like in football, Ryan, you guys rush out to you're 8-7. You know you got to go to 9-7 to make the playoffs. There's no option to not play that team that might be 10-5. You know what I'm saying? You got to go play them. And I think that's the same thing with fighters, right? We got to go and just fight the fight. And Jared Cannonier isn't really worried about his position, because even in losing to Robert Whittaker, his stock rose. He broke his arm. He broke his arm, a bad injury, and was able to go 5 rounds with the former champion and be competitive in a lot of spots. So that one win over Kelvin Gastelum still elevates Jared Cannonier to a position where he could challenge for a title. But Darren Till has a great mouthpiece, right? Guy loves to talk. Derek Brunson's on the best roll of his entire career. So if he wins one more over one of those guys, it truly would catapult him into a legit title shot challenger against Adesanya. And what a visual it would be to see the beast that is Jared Cannonier fighting the tall, lanky athlete that is Israel Adesanya, man. It would be fantastic to see those guys mixed up in the octagon. You know, last weekend, whenever we did the show, we had no sponsors. We had no sponsors, RC. There was no Modelo. There was nobody holding my hand. There was no ad read. I felt sad. I felt sorry. But we're back this week, my guy. We're back this week with Keeps. Keeps.com. I got a question for you. Did you know that 2 or 3 men will experience hair loss by the time they're 35? Don't worry. There's a solution. Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair, with convenient virtual doctor consultants and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months. You don't have to leave your home. Keeps is low cost. Treatments start at just $10 a month, and Keeps offers generic versions. It also comes in discreet packaging, and Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is key. Treatment can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so you gotta act fast. And if you're ready to take action, ready to prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/DC to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com/DC. First month is absolutely free. All you gotta do is go to keeps.com/DC. Now, Ryan Clark, I'm done, right? Keeps.com can't help me. You know, I'm a lost cause, RC. I mean, look at that. The roof, hey, the sunroof is completely open on the boy DC, and it's just going down the backside. But a person that's not losing in any facet, right? Losing hair, losing fights, losing money, being broke, is Kayla Harrison, dog. Kayla Harrison is smashing everybody. What do you make of Kayla Harrison when you see her, 2-time Olympic champion, in the octagon?
It's dominance, DC, and it's dominance in a way that we probably haven't seen, and even more so than what Ronda was, but also the charisma, right? The post-fight interviews and the right type of call-outs, and making sure that whether it's Cyborg, Izzy Adesanya, whoever it is, she's making it a point to put her name along the side of what are really greats in the sport, in the sport of fighting. And when you watch her go out, get someone to the ground, you know it's over. Once they're on the ground, you know there's no moving, there's no maneuvering, and there's no way to. I'm watching this fight, and I'm like, stop it. And not necessarily because she was dishing out so much punishment. It's because you knew it was over. You knew it was over 30 seconds before it was stopped. It was just a formality to see if her opponent could wiggle out, move a hand, turn over, and get out of the way. But now, let's ask the real question, no DC, because she's undefeated, right? She's an Olympian, right? A judo master. She's figured out ways to absolutely dominate inside the octagon. Who is the woman for her? Who stands across the octagon from Kayla Harrison and makes her scared, makes her back down, or who can dominate her? Is she the best female fighter in the world?
Ryan, my friend, I am here to tell you, nobody, and this is not hyperbole. This is not me putting on. I'm a UFC guy. I see the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, all the time, but I'm telling you right now, there is no one like Kayla Harrison. Nobody has what she has.
So DC,
because listen, Ryan, when you can dominate in the way that she is, I understand she is not fighting the cream of the crop, but there has been no mishaps. She's undefeated. She is dominating. She has gone down to 45. And in Invicta, when they allowed her to elbow people, it was even worse. It was brutal the way that she dominated the fight. And then when you get on the mic afterward, you say, hey, I just beat a girl from Israel Adesanya's team. So what I'm going to say next is Israel Adesanya couldn't stop my takedowns. She just does it right.
Yeah, now she's a genius.
She's a genius. Hits the marks. She hits the marks, and she has the fight ability to back it up. And I'm telling you right now, as I look into my camera, whether it's Cris Cyborg, whether it's Amanda Nunes, I don't know who in the world can beat Kayla Harrison right now. I am not
DC,
confident
I have a real question for you.
She's losing to anyone. Ask me. Go ahead.
This is a real question for you, DC. This is a real question. Why do you hate Amanda Nunes?
No.
When it was Juliana Pena, you were saying that she was going to beat Amanda Nunes. Now all of a sudden,
I see what
Kayla
you're doing
Harrison is going to beat Amanda Nunes.
I see what you're doing.
I'm just trying to ask.
I never
DC,
said.
Why don't you like Amanda Nunes? What did she do to you?
I love Amanda Nunes. No, I love Amanda Nunes.
Do you really?
I absolutely love Amanda Nunes.
Do you?
I absolutely love Amanda Nunes. I love Nina Nunes. I think they're fantastic. I think what Amanda has done for the sport
Just because you keep repeating it
unmatched.
doesn't make it so.
No, I am telling you, it is the truth. I love Amanda. The reality is, I'm talking about a person that I've never seen anything like it. And hey, we've never seen Amanda before. We've never seen a fighter quite like Amanda, but we have seen Amanda get beat. Nobody has even come close to challenging Kayla Harrison. Now, if there's one person that could fight Kayla Harrison, obviously it is the greatest female fighter of all time, Amanda Nunes. She's 21-4. She's got a reach advantage. She's won 12 in a row. Kayla's won 11. Kayla's a couple of years younger. I just don't know how you handle the physicality and the pressure that Kayla Harrison brings. And I think at some point we will get to see that. We will get to see this fight at 145 pounds because we have seen Kayla Harrison make the weight before. It's fantastic. And I believe that when they get locked into the octagon, the biggest fight in female fight history. Biggest fight in history.
Absolutely.
No questions asked.
It's the fight. It's the fight we need. To me, DC. We need to see Kayla Harrison. We need to see Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes was at the fight last weekend, and we got an opportunity to see Kayla Harrison talk to Cyborg. But this is the one thing. This is the one thing that sticks out in my mind to me about Amanda Nunes. There has been many great female fighters that have stepped into the octagon with her, whether it be Rousey, Cyborg, Holly Holm, Shevchenko, and these are all people that are, and all women that I've watched walk to the octagon, and I was very confident that they could be competitive. And obviously, Shevchenko has been the most competitive against Amanda Nunes. But when she's fighting Cyborg and she comes out and she's toe-to-toe, she's eye-to-eye, she's not blinking, she's throwing heavy punches, putting herself in harm's way to absorb heavy punches, and it's not even a fight. It was a physical dominance that I had never seen over someone that I felt couldn't be physically dominated amongst her peers. And so to just sit here and unequivocally say, to not even like squinch your face, not even give it thought.
Bro.
And I know we had a production meeting, but I thought while you were out faking moss catches and acting like you were catching the ball over Big Rob or whatever, that you would actually come to your senses. Or, the sun is so close to your brain, DC. I figure like it'll warm it up and you can understand. You are talking about the lioness, bro. A man, you acted like she don't have a chance, DC. So we just shouldn't watch the fight.
No, Ryan, I'm not saying.
If she fights Kayla Harrison, we just shouldn't watch it.
No, I'm not saying. No, I'm not saying that she is not going to have a chance. What I'm saying is, and this will upset somebody else. I don't know if Kayla Harrison and Valentina should. I don't know if Kayla Harrison fights Valentina Shevchenko if it's that close because she's so big. I don't know. For as good as Valentina is, the size difference is so massive. I don't know if Valentina can compete with Kayla in the way that she competes with the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Amanda Nunes. Love Amanda. Guys, don't let this dude come in here.
DC.
Don't let this dude come in here.
No, you don't.
Stir the pot.
You don't love Amanda.
I don't like Amanda
I'm
Nunes.
not stirring the pot.
I love Amanda Nunes. All I'm saying is it's a very difficult matchup because of physical ability and the grappling that Kayla Harrison possesses. A lot of the issues, Ryan, and this is why Amanda's been so dominant. She's fantastic. She is as good as they come, but she is so well-rounded. She can do it all. So when you fight a Jermaine Durandamy, who's a great striker, you just take her down every single round. When you fight a Ronda Rousey, who's a great grappler, you stand and beat her up on the feet.
Straight to stand up.
She just has all the skills, so then all of her opponents can't match that. So she makes them fight in that area. Kayla has all those same skills, but she's a bigger fighter and younger. They say a lot of times in rematches and in fights, the bigger, younger athlete will get the job done in most cases. And I think that would be the case if Kayla and Amanda fought. I'm not picking. I'm just saying it's very difficult. I almost picked there. God dang it, I almost picked. You see, it's you. It's you, Ryan. It's you. You do this to me. You almost made me pick a fight I don't like to pick.
DC, well, here's what I'm going to say. Just as Connor made you change your suit, I made you change your conversation and your argument. We went from Amanda to Valentina because you know that the lioness is going to see you, and you may not be as strong as Kayla is, and you might be a little scared.
I'm not scared. I'm just like trying not. You got me out here almost disrespecting the greatest fighter of all time. I don't want to disrespect the greatest female fighter of all time.
Clearly,
What?
All right. So now, so we've got an opportunity to talk about a magical fight that we may get in the future and a matchup that we would all love to see. But do you know what people are going to be looking forward to seeing this weekend? And I almost cannot believe I'm saying that the biggest fight of the weekend is Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. What do you make of the fight game? What do you make of the way that Jake Paul has truly manipulated, has truly worked and created a space for himself where he makes money like this? But now this is the first time, you know, the Ben Askrens and the Nate Washingtons, these aren't guys who could really put him to sleep. He's going to be in the ring now with someone with skill, with someone with power. How do you see this weekend playing out?
I got to tell you, RC, I'm excited. I've watched it. I watched him fight Ben Askren, partly because Ben was a teammate of mine and I wanted to see what would happen. But I watched him fight Nate Robinson too. I watched him fight Nate
Robinson. I'm sorry, I said Washington, yeah.
Yeah, I watched him fight Nate because it's funny and we all tune in. That's why, Ryan, when they're doing this stupid challenge on TikTok right now where people are trying to walk across crates, big fat people walking across crates, and they just fall down every time. we watch train wrecks. We constantly watch train wrecks because you can't turn away from it. So I watch Jake Paul every single time he fights. But here's the thing. It's time for people to start taking Jake Paul seriously. I know that him and I had our run-ins and everything, and I'll never be okay with the kid. That's not my cup of tea. But the reality is you got to take this kid serious because when you're fighting guys like Ben, who's an amateur boxer, like Nate Robinson, who's an amateur boxer, those guys are amateurs and true amateurs. Jake Paul is a rich person that is fighting amateurs but getting trained by the absolute best trainers in the world. His skills are developing at a rate that is unmatched by these young guys. Now, Tyron Woodley, on the other hand, he's got a real boxing coach. He's got money. He's got skills and ability, and he's got a championship pedigree that will make him the first true challenge that Jake Paul has seen inside the ring. But guys, it's time to stop allowing this kid to trick you. He is not just a YouTube kid anymore. He's not just a Disney kid. He's a fighter because he's prepping to fight full time. But he's going to have his hands full this weekend because T. Wood is no joke. T. Wood is nasty. T. Wood is powerful. He's tough, and he has got a killer right hand that if he lands, he's going to knock Jake Paul out.
DC, this is my question. Obviously, when we looked at Ben Askren, I know you mentioned, and everybody knows now that that's a teammate of yours. You know, and we've seen Ben inside the octagon. We actually saw him dominate for a very long time until he had to, you know, he met Street Jesus, you know, as some people has called him, and it was the quick flying knee. But is Tyron Woodley representing the UFC? Is he representing MMA? Is this a guy that once Jake Paul fights him, we're really going to have an opportunity to look at Jake Paul and say, you know what, we should respect him? Or Jake Paul is on his way to being a legitimate fighter, but now he's fighting against a dude who people don't respect. He's fighting a dude who people feel like doesn't deserve the opportunity to be inside the ring with someone like him. If Jake Paul beats Tyron Woodley, what does that mean for Tyron Woodley? What does that mean for the sport of MMA? And ultimately, what does it mean for Jake Paul?
I got to be honest with you. He's absolutely representing mixed martial arts. Every single time Jake Paul is in the ring with a fighter or a former fighter, whether they want it or not, they are carrying the entire sport of mixed martial arts on their shoulders. Because the vast majority of people, not just mixed martial arts fans, people hope that you beat Jake Paul and put him back in his place. But the reality is the mixed martial arts fans, the masses, the people that have watched your entire career, the people that have seen you sleep Robbie Lawler, sleep Koss, sleep Jay Heron, sleep all those guys that you've slept over the course of your career. They are hoping that you go and do the same thing against this kid that honestly is just a disruptor. He disrupts everything, right? He goes to the fights and he has the crowd yelling expletives at him, and he loves it. He's just basking in it. He's the guy that goes and annoys me to the point that I walk up to him. He goes places to agitate people. So every time he gets to beat a mixed martial artist, now especially one that has won a title, it's going to allow for him to take his character to the next level. But again, it is a character. Make no mistake about it. But this kid is truly learning to fight. So if you're going to go in there with Jake Paul, you better be completely serious because the dude's trying to win. And Tyron Woodley, I feel, is as locked in, or as you say, RC, he has tapped in. Dude's tapped in to boxing, and he's as prepared as he's ever been for a long time for this fight this weekend. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm absolutely locked in, and I'm locked in for many of the reasons you mentioned, but most of all, I want to see what's real. I want to see if Tyron Woodley is approaching this in a way where he's like, you know what? I understand what's on the line for me, and I want to make sure, or I want to see that Jake Paul knows and understands that his life could be on the line stepping in the ring with someone like Tyron Woodley. You know, DC, I think about a lot of the things that we went through, and I think about, you know, the show getting to this point. And when we were preparing, we were talking a little bit about my notes, right? Because I have notes and I write things down, and you were like, hey, you're all professional and this and that. And so we're going to get an opportunity, I think, to pick our top 5 must-see UFC fighters of all time. And I still have mine written down. You don't have yours written down. So I guess you could go first because I will acquiesce to you.
That's the problem, though. That's the problem. You're watching all kinds of film. You're writing down your notes.
Yeah, I am.
Your TVU, your TVU and Zoom works right away. You're too professional. You can't come in. I mean, like I told you time and time again, my boss wears a black T-shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes to press conferences. Okay. You're too professional for this mixed martial arts game. But then when we look at the most must-see people, right? You saw the WWE's biggest star come back in last weekend, Brock Lesnar, with the awful haircut, with the awful haircut. You know, got his jeans on, goes and looks down, faces down Roman Reigns. So he is must-see. But when you talk about mixed martial artists, the must-see guys, and you go top 5, if I get the one pick, as anybody would, you got to pick Conor McGregor. Because if it's must-watch, the person that draws in the most eyeballs is the most must-watch guy the sport's ever seen. McGregor has, 4 of the top 5 grossing pay-per-views of all time. So if you got to take a number 1 pick and you're building an organization for success, got to take Conor McGregor.
Yeah, listen, you know, that's my number 1 too. I was hoping that you would actually take the notes and start from the bottom.
You can't pick him.
So we could go. So we could go.
You can't pick him.
Wait. So my number 1 must see. This is going to be the dude that got me into the UFC. When I was buying UFC greatest knockout DVDs, this was my guy. And I feel like if this guy right now is fighting in the light heavyweight division in his prime, which was like a long but a short prime, this is a dude we come to watch. I'm talking about the Iceman. I'm talking about the Mohawk. I'm talking about the dude that came out with the belly, the skinny legs, the long arms, face wide open, ready to go. Now, you want to talk about was heartbroken when he fought Rampage? Heartbroken when he fought Rashard Evans? That was me, DC. I just couldn't live with the fact that Chuck Liddell went out like that. But the guy I would pick, since you took Conor McGregor, would be Chuck Liddell. That would be somebody who I feel like has always been must-see when it came to the UFC.
Pick, and man, for what Chuck was back then, if he was in this environment today, dude would be selling million pay-per-views every single time out. But another guy, for me, right, that was selling 1 million pay-per-views because I was on one of the cards, I'm going to take at number 2, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, the guy that I just talked about in the WWE. Every time Brock Lesnar came to the UFC, he sold a ton of pay-per-views. And at UFC 200, when he made his return, he texted me. He said, "Merry Christmas, DC," because he knew I would be on the fight card and getting pay-per-view when he was going to be on the show. So I'm taking Brock Lesnar at number 2.
Well, so this is going to be probably off the beaten path. At number 2, I'm going to take Nate Diaz. And here's why. Nate Diaz is a dude that's not fighting for belts. Nate Diaz is a dude who is not necessarily always top 5, not even top 5 now. But every time a fighter in his weight class, a guy at 170, can't get a championship bout, what name do we start hearing? Nate Diaz. They're tweeting at Nate Diaz. Dustin Poirier is even talking about moving up to 170 to fight Nate Diaz. They created a belt for Nate Diaz. Leon Edwards had to fight Nate Diaz. And so I think when you're a guy like Nate Diaz that just draws eyeballs to the screens, that makes sure people are locked in and tuned in, not even necessarily to see if you're going to win, just to get an opportunity to watch you bleed for 5 rounds, continue coming, continue fighting, Stockton slapping folks, turning around, taunting people. I think Nate Diaz is must-see TV, whether he's fighting in the UFC or even just talking at a press conference, even though half of the stuff he's saying, I don't even freaking understand.
At number 3, Team Cormier chooses what may be the greatest fighter of all time. From Montreal, Quebec, Canada, George Rush St. Pierre. So at number 3, I'm taking GSP, man. GSP was another guy that was constantly in the 750, 850 pay-per-view sold range. So I'm taking George Rush St. Pierre at number 3. Boy, my team started. I'm selling some pay-per-views out here. I'm
starting to think I should have went first, because when Jake and Elisa and Glenn were laying out the rules, like, I didn't know we couldn't have the same people. I thought that was going to be part of it, that we could have the same people. Like, can't you fight the same people, like grab the same people on the UFC game? I can't make George St. Pierre fight George St. Pierre. Like, I don't feel like these rules are fair. But at number 3, I'm going to pick this guy. Listen, I've seen this dude in person, and I'm going to be honest, like, I wasn't necessarily impressed. You know, like, this is a guy that I might try at some point. But at number 3, I'm going to pick a dude. He was a 2-division champ. He's an Olympian. He went to Oklahoma State University. At number 3, I'm going to pick Daniel Cormier. Listen, when you got a guy that can move up, right, that can move up and down in weight divisions, that can actually win the belt, this is a guy you got to go with. By the way, I don't know if you've ever heard Daniel Cormier on TV. The dude's freaking amazing. He's not only selling fights when he's inside the octagon throwing bows, but when he goes into the octagon afterwards, he's the dude being messy. He asking folks to call people out. I mean, he even got Brandon Moreno to get the nicest call out of all time. So for me, at number 3, whether outside the octagon with a microphone or inside the octagon with the gloves on, I'm picking Daniel Cormier.
My brother RC, I appreciate that. And for the record, quick stat on Daniel Cormier, I was going to pick myself from 2015 to 2020, the last part of the decade. No one main evented more pay-per-views than your boy DC for the UFC. So I was truly a workhorse in that regard. So let me give you my 4th pick. That's my guy right there. And I'm going to give you my 4th pick at number 4.
Okay.
Team DC goes all the way to Dagestan, Mahashkala, Russia, and pick the eagle of Dagestan, Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm taking Khabib Nurmagomedov with the 4th pick because, as they say in the business, RC, he got the rub. He got the rub, right? He fought McGregor. Once he fought McGregor, he got the rub. Now he can main event and sell pay-per-views. So at number 4, I'm taking my brother, the Eagle of Dagestan, Khabib.
Well, you know what? I mean, I knew you were going to do that. I knew it was going to be him or Islam. Like, at some point, you were going to start picking your friends. I mean, that's the way you work. I'm actually not shocked about these things. It doesn't matter what we're having a conversation about. Your friends somehow enter it. I can be like, hey, man, Ben Roethlisberger looked very good this weekend. Hey, did you know that Habib fought bears? Did you know that, RC?
Hey, come on, man.
Bears when he was growing up.
Dog.
That's chill. Every conversation we had. Hey, RC, did you know that Islam was tied to Habib when he was fighting the Bears? I mean, that's like every time we do a stinking show. I can't ever get through a show without hearing about your friends. I only talk about me.
You're an Islam Habib hater, dog. You are Islam Habib hater and starting to prove his own.
All
You're
right, so
an Islam
at number-
hater, dog. I see it.
Clearly, when you take notes and you watch DVDs, you know more about the history of the great fighters of the
Oh, my
UFC
goodness.
than your partner, who was actually a great part of it. At number 4, I'm going to pick the Spider, Anderson Silva. And this is what's going to happen. People try to tell me, "Hey, RC, you're a casual. You don't know anything." But if you are not a casual, if you've been locked into this thing, you know what type of dude this was. You know that he would just move up to 205 to go play with people and lean on the fence and bob and weave and get out and then run backwards and knock folks out. Anderson Silva was, after Chuck Liddell, he was the dude I tuned in to see every opportunity I got to see him fight, because you knew it would be exciting. You knew that he would take chances, and you knew that he would show the ultimate skill. You want to talk about a headliner? You want to talk about a dude who was the person that you came to watch on the card? To me, that was Anderson Silva, and that's why he's my 4th pick.
That's a good pick. That's a really good pick. The Spider, I kind of forgot about the Spider a little bit. Now, here's where
Because you don't take notes, DC. Because you don't take notes.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? But then I just almost picked somebody. But then I was like, what am I doing? I literally just almost picked a guy from Albuquerque. I almost picked him as my 5th guy. But then I thought to myself, what? Because you know who I'm picking? Fighting out of Glendale, California, from the Glendale Fight Club. He is going to take Rowdy Ronda.
Good pick.
Again, I don't know why.
That's a good
why did I
pick.
take Ronda earlier? Ronda outsold my number 3, my number 4, and number 5. Ronda may have been in her prime, at her height. Ronda may have been only second to McGregor in terms of pay-per-view sales. So what was I doing? Why did it take me so long? So I'm going to adjust now. I'm going Conor 1, Ronda 2, GSP 3. 4 is going to be, who did I pick 4th? Who did I pick 3rd before, Ryan?
Habib.
Who did I pick 3rd?
You got Habib. Habib and George St. Pierre.
Yep,
George St. Pierre was 3.
They
Habib
slide
was
down.
4.
Everybody slides down. Guys in the truck back there, update my graphic. McGregor, Rousey, then I want George St. Pierre, then I want Nurmagomedov, and I can't even remember who my 5th person was, but I want Ronda Rousey at number 2. Sorry, Ronda, I apologize.
That's a good pick.
I apologize. I picked you so late.
That's a good pick. My notes definitely failed me there. I definitely should have went her.
Yeah, they
1.
definitely
Just a
failed
good
you.
pick. But at number 5, I'm going to take John Jones. And when you think about epic matchups with Daniel Cormier, epic matchup with Gustafsson, when you think about all the guys who have reached the pinnacle and the peak of having an opportunity to fight them, and other than you, their careers kind of going downhill after that opportunity, after getting up for that fight. I mean, this is a dude from the time we saw him entering the octagon, he's been a star. He's been a winner, and he's had some out of fight stuff. He's had some away from the octagon stuff. But when you talk about stepping in the octagon and putting on shows, number 5 for me is going to be John Jones. I feel like my list is better than yours, because your list is kind of like my friends, and money.
You're crazy.
And look at this picture.
You're crazy.
But
You're
look
so
at
crazy.
my suit, though, DC. For all the people, who cannot see us right now. The only reason DC's picture is better than mine is because he has 2 championship belts. If I had my Super Bowl ring on, that would be it. But DC, I'll have to give it to you. Your list is very good.
RC, listen. McGregor, Rousey, GSP, Lesnar before Habib. That's my top 5 all time. But RC, let me tell you something. In that suit, it looks supremely tailored. And I gotta be honest, my brother, you look like you might smell good. In this photo, you look like you might have one really expensive cologne, dog.
I did.
It looked like you might have one really expensive cologne, dog.
That's what I'm wearing to the next big fight night, DC. The next big fight night, I'm coming decked out, and I'm gonna make sure you tell them they got to find your boy with the camera, because I'm gonna be ready to go. But I love your picks. I think your picks are excellent. And I am going to be honest and concede, even though you do not like Amanda Nunes, your top 5 ended up being better than mine overall.
It was it was absolutely better because RC, let me tell you something, man. I'm just in this thing. Like it's like me, walking into training camp and just talking to everybody. They'd be like, dude, get out of here. But if Ryan Clark walks into training camp, everybody's like, yo, RC, what's good, baby? They'll talk to you. But look, this is why, like, I love doing the show, because we could do things like the draft. A fantastic segment, was fun, and also it tests your knowledge of the biggest people that have headline cards in the UFC, been real pillars for mixed martial arts. But with the UFC, as we do on this show, we got to move forward. In this weekend, we get to the TUF Finale, right? We have a fantastic main event between Chikadze and Barbosa, but ultimately it's about those young men that went through the show, the ones that lived in the house for 6 weeks, had to fight. But when you look at those guys, you go into that fight, and you're essentially on the bubble, right? You're number 54 on the football roster.
Yeah.
How does that relate? And how does that feel? Because at one point you were an undrafted free agent, right? To not know where that security is going to lie within your future. That's what these young athletes are going into this weekend. Talk about the nerves and the uncertainty that position can provide.
I think it's so crazy, because when you enter that game, you understand what you control, but also what you don't. You know that all you can control is what happens in between the lines. You can't control the perception of it or how people see it. So that's what you truly try to focus on. Just as these fighters will walk out and understand when they step into the octagon that they're fighting for their careers, right? They're fighting for their livelihoods. That's the same way you feel like playing football. Training camp is basically like living in the Ultimate Fighter house. You know that every day you got to go out and be better than the dude next to you, better than the guy in your room. And sometimes you start thinking that it's just a competition between the people you play in a different color, but it's not. It's a competition with the people on your team. It's a competition with the guys that you're close to. And entering that last game, you make every phone call you need to make. You say every prayer that you need to make, because you understand how important those 60 minutes will be to you. If you're a fringe guy, you'll probably play the whole game. Every single play is going to matter. You're going to play special teams. You're going to play defense. You're going to do every single thing, and you won't ask for a break. You can't ask for a longer time in between rounds. You have to go out and perform. That's what we'll see on the Ultimate Fighter finale, and that's actually what the last preseason game is like for dudes who don't know if they'll make it.
Whenever you're dealing, I got some notes here on some of the stuff that we're going to talk about in this weekend, right? Like you look at some of these young fighters on the Ultimate Fighter, and Ryan, I know I'm not supposed to be reading it, but one of the things that really sticks out to me is the story, right? The guy that comes in at the very end of the draft, right? A guy that isn't expected. Like for me, I remember Marcus Colston, right? Remember Marcus Colston from the Saints? Drafted in the 7th round. He wasn't supposed to be what he became, right? But he made the most of his opportunity. So then when you look at Brian Battle, Gilbert Urbina, right? He's stepping in on short notice over Trayshawn Gore. Look, Battle was picked last. Battle was picked last on the show. And he finds himself in this position now to try and win to the UFC's roster. But the reality is this: winning solves everything. And there is not a sport more true to that than mixed martial arts. Whereas on the football field,
100%.
you could do everything right. You could do everything right. And there's a guy, right? As a rookie, you can do everything right. You're a safety, right? And Ryan Clark is 10 years in the league. You can do everything right. But what Ryan Clark has put on paper is so much more valuable in in-game sequences than what you are showing in practices, that even if you did everything right, they go and they get Ryan Clark because it's a proven entity when it's on the field. In the octagon, all you do is win, and you win impressively. And once you're there, you have that Ultimate Fighter background. You have being in the house as a pushover, something to uplift you. It only gets bigger and bigger. But for me, my advice for these guys going in this weekend is just win. Go and get the job done. And then you get to watch Chikadze versus Barbosa. I think this is going to be an explosive night of fights, and I cannot wait until Saturday.
Like the big thing I'll add to what you said, DC, is when you think of the Ultimate Fighter and you think of the Thug Roses, you think of the Rashard Evans, you think of the Michael Bispings, you could go obviously back to Forrest Griffin. You think about all of these people, there's a lineage of champions that come out of the Ultimate Fighter house, right? And it's the same thing with undrafted free agents, right? You know, I watched Aeneas Williams, who went right here to Southern, who ended up being a Hall of Famer. I was on the team with a guy like James Harrison, who was also an undrafted free agent. You can see dudes like Tom Brady get drafted 199th. And so there's a plan, right? There's a playbook of a way to become a champion from those circumstances. And that was all I would think about every game in the preseason for about my first 3 years, because I understood that nothing was promised. My fourth year in the league, I get picked up. My third year in the league, I get picked up the day before camp in Washington. I make the team. I never moved my family up, because I understood that any day could be my last day there. And so, like you say, in the UFC, it's about winning. It's about winning impressively. But you know, if you keep winning, you could one day have that UFC gold on your shoulder. And that has to be the goal for everyone that gets an opportunity to fight on the Ultimate Fighter, but especially for these two finalists.
A lot of those young athletes go into the Ultimate Fighter with nothing, right? And it's a springboard into the UFC, but also the first time that these young athletes have so many of the different things available to them, right? They don't have the resources to have the skills training that they have when they go to the show. You got the PI, you got so many different things that allow you to become a better fighter and better mixed martial artist. You just got to get through the journey. Ryan, another great show, man. It's getting better and better every week. Man. Every week I look forward to getting to Wednesday to discuss this. The draft was great. I mean, all your points. Stop trying to start a fight between me and Amanda Nunes, because you could never come in here and infiltrate the relationship that I have with the Lioness and the GOAT. So for Daniel Cormier, for Ryan Clark, this is another episode of DC and RC. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.